It's Seacoast Sunday Morning with Kelly Brown.
All right, we're joined today by a New Hampshire author, Andrea Caesar, from Wolfboro. I don't know if you're in Wolfboro now, right, Andrea?
That's right.
Did you grow up in Wolfboro?
I didn't, but I have been here since 2004.
Well, of course, a beautiful part of Lake Winnipesaukee. Andrea has written a book, A Twist of Lyme, Battling a Disease That Does Not Exist, chronicling your struggle, your lifelong struggle with Lyme disease. And, you didn't know until you were an adult that you had this since you were a child, right?
That's correct, yes. 11 years old when I contracted the disease, but we didn't figure that out until I was actually 36 years old.
Did you have symptoms going on for years and trying to get this diagnosed and just couldn't come up with anything?
Absolutely. Lyme is an incredible disease which masks itself in different ways. And because it's so difficult to diagnose, it took us almost 3 decades to diagnose. How
did you end up? Was there a time when you were 11 that you really got sick and doctors didn't know what it was that you can pinpoint to?
Well, what we did as a family when I was 36 and got diagnosed was we sat down and we decided to really sit down and figure out when I changed as a person and as a kid. And we realized that at 10 years old, I loved to play kickball and I was very sporty and I was a dancer. And then at 11, all of a sudden I was really exhausted and I didn't want to do much and I had migraines and I was just a sick kid and I was missing a lot of school all of a sudden. So that's when we realized that something changed when I was 11 years old.
As a kid, did your parents know something was up medically? Did you go to see doctors and try to have something diagnosed?
Absolutely, all the time.
And at that time, have we advanced since then where we can do a quick test for Lyme disease?
Unfortunately, Lyme is very difficult to diagnose. There are different tests that can be done, but they're very unreliable, especially the blood tests. And the research and the science that's being done is unfortunately also very unreliable. So it's difficult to get diagnosed, and it's difficult to find doctors that know how to properly treat them. We call them Lyme-literate doctors.
We're talking to New Hampshire author Andrea Caesar, Twist of Lyme, Battling a Disease That Does Not Exist. That's her new book, chronicling her lifelong struggle with Lyme disease. And I guess, looking back, as an adult, what was the final thing to say, you know what, I think I may have Lyme disease?
Well, what's incredible was in 2006, I started working with a Lyme-literate naturopath here in New Hampshire, and I was working with patients who were getting diagnosed after years of getting the blood test coming back negative. There was a new urinalysis being done by a new lab, and patients that had previously come back negative were now coming back positive. And I looked at the doctor one day and I said, I need to take this test. I know I have Lyme disease. And sure enough, that new test came back positive. So I had been working with a Lyme-literate naturopath.
I guess the reason you wrote this book is to get to other people who are experiencing and have experienced similar things that you have, the frustration of getting it diagnosed. You want the message to get out there for people, maybe get themselves another test.
Absolutely. What I want to do with this book is, there's so many books out there about the science and the medicine behind Lyme disease, but what I really wanted to do with this book is to humanize the disease and to tell people that it does exist, that you're not crazy, that just keep at it. With people with Lyme disease are so exhausted, but you have to keep fighting to get the diagnosis.
What are you dealing with, Andrea, on a day-to-day basis?
Currently, I take 50 to 70 pills, which include oral antibiotics, and neurological support, supplements that will just help with general health, like vitamins. But I also deal in terms of, just major physical pain, complete exhaustion. Sometimes I get headaches. It's from day to day, the symptoms are very, very different. So
you can have a couple of good days and then all of a sudden a bad stretch.
Absolutely.
Going through this, you must have experienced, even as a kid, that's heartbreaking, skepticism from doctors or maybe even from some of your family members.
Absolutely. Thankfully, I have a very supportive family, but, along the way, people really wonder, is she lazy? Is she crazy? I was actually told by one doctor that I was being selfish and that I should cure that selfishness by having a baby.
Wow.
So I've heard some pretty absurd things throughout my 29-year now experience with Lyme. And you just have to, file it under ridiculous and take with your knowledge what you can and be constructive with it.
And your book deals with that. You have a sense of humor about some of the stuff you've gone through. You found some hope in your diagnosis, and you tell us about Dr. Joseph Jemsek.
Dr. Jemsek is my 5-year-old daughter calls him my Dr. Superhero. He's wonderful. Dr. Jemsek is one of the leading specialists of Lyme disease and also HIV/AIDS in the world. And he has treated me out of Washington, D.C. I fly down, once upon a time, I flew down once a month while I was being treated via IV high-dose antibiotics to the chest. I flew down once a month. Now it's more like every 10 to 12 weeks.
Are you noticing an improvement with all the treatment and the drugs?
Absolutely, yeah. There's an improvement, but it's still a struggle. But we do believe that I am nearing, which is our goal, the long-term remission. So we call that my blue sky. I'm just waiting for the blue skies.
So, there's a potential rainbow here at the end as far as will a person who has Lyme disease ever completely be free of it?
Currently, there's no cure for Lyme disease. Maybe, there's always the hope. My goal is to certainly raise awareness, not just among, supporting the Lyme community, but I'm being a little bit loud about this. I have books being sent today to some major politicians, and I do hope to raise awareness in the form of funding. And, we'll go from there and hope that we'll find a cure. But in the meantime, the hope is for long-term remission. And I'll always have to keep an eye on my symptoms. If things start to act up, then I need to go back into treatment.
When you go back and you and your family pinpointed that you got it around the age of 11, we always think of ticks with Lyme disease. Are there any other ways to contract Lyme disease?
That's, a question that's up in the air. We don't really know, but there are certainly theories about it. I'm not really qualified to answer that question at this point, but there are definitely theories and that can be Googled or Binged about it. And there are other questions about whether it's sexually transmitted. There are questions of whether other bugs carry it, but as of yet, nothing is proven. All
right, so back to you had a new cutting-edge test which confirmed your diagnosis. Is this the standard now, or anybody who has questions about that, is it a fail-safe test?
I would not say that it's a fail-safe test, and I would not say that it's standard. I would say I got lucky with a doctor out of Wolfboro who does this test, who is also a fantastic resource. His name is Dr. Steve Clark. He's a naturopath in Wolfboro who does this test, and we've had, I don't work with him anymore, but we had great success, and I know he still does use that test in diagnosing Lyme disease, so I highly recommend him as a local resource.
We're talking to New Hampshire author Andrea Caesar. She lives in Wolfboro. Her new book, chronicling her lifelong struggle with Lyme disease, A Twist of Lyme, battling a disease that does not exist. And you can go to twistoflymebook.com, and that's again Lyme with a Y. This started out as a blog, right?
That's right. Yes. I was, after my first appointment with Dr. Jemsek, when my treatment with Dr. Clark failed, I went to Washington and I had my first appointment with Dr. Jemsek. And after that, I really had to quiet myself in my room in the hotel because I was so overwhelmed. And I put on my shuffle and I heard a song that came on, and all of a sudden something clicked in my head, and I knew that I had a purpose with this. And my purpose was to spread awareness. And so that minute, I actually spent the entire night writing the blog, and I wrote what became the first 50 pages of my book.
What has been the feedback? Have you gotten some positive feedback from other people who have Lyme disease?
I get dozens to hundreds of letters and emails thanking me every single day for being a voice for Lyme, for putting words to something that other people couldn't find words for. I also get thank yous for helping people share with their family members what it's like to be in the head of someone that has Lyme and what torture it really can be. So yes, I mean, it's been absolutely overwhelming, and it warms my heart every day.
A lot of people, have a kindred spirit, I guess, of reading this, and you've experienced similar things that they have. Your message here is to identify with people who have Lyme disease, and also maybe get the word out to some people who may think they have Lyme disease. What is your message to them? I guess, what are the symptoms they should look for, and what are the steps they should take now?
Well, the symptoms, it's very hard because Lyme disease masks itself as over 600 diseases. But I would say the most important thing is if you know that something big has changed and you have been getting tested for things like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Lou Gehrig's disease, autoimmune disease, and many more things that are all coming back negative, and you have body aches and joint pain, and you have headaches and unexplained pain, and extreme fatigue, that's a really good indicator that you should start getting tested and tested and tested again for Lyme disease. I think especially up here in the Northeast, if you have any kind of long-term flu-like symptoms, it's a good idea.
And also, I mean, just the basics here, make sure you wear, I guess it's DEET, that stuff that's going to prevent getting bit by ticks?
Yes, I mean, I think that it's important to understand that, if you're a hiker, you want to wear light-colored clothing and tuck. You might look a little silly, but you want to tuck your pants into your socks, and put the DEET, if you choose to use DEET, on your clothing, not on your skin. It's quite a toxic chemical to put on your skin. There's actually another product out there that people are using. There are several new options that are using catnip instead of DEET. Catnip is now proven to be 10 times more effective in deterring ticks. My favorite is by Ava Anderson, Non-Toxic, and it's very effective, and you can actually use that on your skin and in your hair. So whether you use DEET or another product, make sure that you're covered in it. You
mentioned that you figured out, you and your family and yourself figured out around age 11 is when you probably contracted Lyme disease, and you were not diagnosed until how many years later? I mean, you were an adult.
26 years later.
26 years later. What was the reaction of your family to that diagnosis?
A lot of tears. A lot of tears, and a lot of what are we going to do? And then we really sort of had to come together like a tribe. At that time, my daughter was 3 years old, and we really had to figure out how we were going to go about things, especially when we found out that I had to go into the IV therapy, which is very similar to chemo. We had to figure out how we were going to logistically make things happen.
Yeah,
I'm very lucky that my parents live in town, and they're extremely supportive. And I'm lucky to have a little girl who is just dealing with this incredibly well.
Yeah, I sympathize with you now, but I sympathize with you as a child, because you're going back, you lost a lot of your childhood, and, there have to be other kids out there that are experiencing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what my life would have been like without Lyme. So while I might mourn that loss, it's kind of hard for me to do that because I just don't know what it would have been like.
Well, you've certainly grabbed the bull by the horns. The book is called The Twist of Lyme, Battling a Disease That Does Not Exist. Andrea Caesar, New Hampshire author, lives in Wolfboro. And if anybody wants information, they can go to twistoflymebook.com for more information. Andrea, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for having me.